And there he is. There's the man.
Hi, guys.
Nice to see you, Ron Bennington.
Hi,
Big fan.
Hi, Anthony Fez.
That's
Nice
Fez
to meet you.
Watley.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Right here?
Yeah. Anthony, talking about your program that you do on the Travel Channel, which I'll put up against any show on TV right now. The original show that I saw this year that you went to France, that thing should be up for an Emmy. Just phenomenal. And I wouldn't even mind taking it to the red states. Just to say, look, before you're afraid of the rest of the world, there's some cool things out there.
Yeah, I thought it was time to sort of rehabilitate the French, at least as far as their food goes.
Right.
Got my back up. I mean, the whole freedom fries thing, it really took all the fun out of making fun of the French.
Right.
That got me angry.
Right. I mean, exactly. Part of the thing about the French is we're supposed to be fighting with them. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. They even fight with each other, don't they?
Oh my God! They're a perpetual state of whining and complaining over there. But they know how to eat. They know how to live. And, anybody, I think they have like 5 or 6 weeks of enforced paid vacation a year. This
I know, it's August,
32-hour work week. It's, kind of like that.
Why don't we do that?
If everybody just took August off, here's the problem. There's always some asshole who will go, you know what, I'll make more money if I go to work during August. Right. That's why people have to get up early in the morning.
That's why people shave their heads, climb towers, and start shooting, passers-by. They just need more vacation time.
Right After a while, yeah.
Yeah,
and a better food.
Right.
It's only the administration that takes August off now. The rest of the country should go.
Now, the other part of this, too, is it's not only do they have better food, but they spend a little more time with it. There's something about our whole fast food culture where we're missing something out in life.
Well, I think I've been thinking a lot about this. Why the English-speaking world lagged so far behind, Europe and Asia. They really like their food over in Europe. They spend time with it. They enjoy it. There was always this kind of Judeo-Christian idea that food was sinful. You hear the word pop up anytime you hear somebody saying, "Oh, that chocolate, it was sinful," as if it was something naughty. There's this kind of this notion that taking too much pleasure at the table is a bad thing and leads to bad character or worse, sex. Whereas I think, most civilized parts of the world, they understand, hell yeah, it leads to sex, and what's wrong with that?
Right.
As a result, we're just now kind of catching up, and I think one of the problems why we've eaten so badly and why fast food took such great hold here is that it institutionalizes low expectations. I mean, when you go to, the Colonel or the King,
right.
you know it's going to be the same crap burger you had last time, but that's the whole thing. It may be a crap burger, but it's the same crap burger
it's
you
my
had.
crap burger.
Right. So, that's enough. And low expectations is something, was, for me, always the enemy.
But now I know last night you were in Vegas. When you can tour around the country, you can find places almost everywhere, but you have to be able to look for them. You have to be able to find them.
Absolutely. A saving grace almost everywhere. I mean, you can be out there, you wouldn't think that Minneapolis is a culinary wonderland. In fact, it's got a huge Asian community, some of the best Vietnamese restaurants in the country.
Right.
So, if the American, and that's such a loose term, food is no good, you could go to the Latino or Asian community.
Right.
That's the first thing that people tend to bring with them when they come over here is their supply train of food, and their cooks, and that's a great thing. And when you're in Texas looking for a good meal, it's nice to find a good Vietnamese place.
Yeah, it is, and you know what? That's true too. I don't know what it is about. It's the immigrant people, but they go, well, we're here in this new place. One thing we do know how to do is we have our own recipes, and then they start small. They don't try to have some gigantic place. It's got 6, 7 tables in some of this.
Yeah.
And it's mainly at first just sold back to their family or friends.
Which is good also. It's when people from another place start preparing food for American tastes or what they think are American tastes, it doesn't get better. It's when, exactly like you said, if it's a small community and it's somebody running a mom and pop joint to feed people from their own community and their own country, it's reasonably authentic. I mean, you have to understand, if somebody comes over, people always say to me, how can you eat that stuff on television, man? All that
right.
weird, bugs and whatever else. I mean, imagine what it's like to be a Thai, coming from a dairy-free culture where dairy is, a strange and weird
right.
thing. Coming over here and seeing, like, Cheese Whiz, I was like, well, what the hell is that?
That's scary enough for Americans.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? But if you get locked into anything at a young age, you act like that's what food is. You know, if somebody gave it to you when you were 3 or 4 and you saw your people eat it and your parents, you go back and go, oh, this is the best thing in the whole world. So really, the fact that we eat so poorly now in terms like fast food is really your mother's fault. Right away, because she took you to McDonald's at an early age. That's all you really know.
Well, it's also, there's the tranquilizer effect. You got all these screaming, squealing kids. You come home from work. It's just so easy to shut them up, bring them off, give them, stuff them full of carbs and, give them a Happy Meal. And it's, it's like giving them a shot of Demerol.
And you can drive through now. You don't have to go in the place to get your food. You can go in your pajamas. It's that easy.
But, it's not like you can't find, like, really good burger places out there that some guy will own, But the fact is, and this always pisses me off, we drive by that guy. We drive by the real Italian family that have their own pizza place to go to the same fucking pizza place that's everywhere in the country.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's just scary that we even do it. It's absolutely frightening.
Well, I don't know if you've read Fast Food Nation. They're Ronald McDonald is more recognizable than Jesus around the world apparently, or Santa Claus.
Right.
I mean, that's no accident. They're putting posters up in school districts. They help finance the school, and then apparently put up posters of Friendly Ronald. So. It's really the kids they're trying to convince and target, because the kids are going to, if they scream long enough and loud enough, mom and dad are going to knuckle under. All right, give the rotten kid his dog shit.
But at the same time, it's funny too, because Santa Claus, that was a marketing scheme by Coca-Cola back in like the 20s or 30s. He never was really legendary. The fat guy in the red thing.
Not Santa.
Yeah. And I mean, even those colors, they're Coca-Cola colors. So we've just adopted a marketing campaign. So there's no real reasons that we couldn't, just like in another 20 years ago, 20 years from now.
Santa, I'm still getting over that fat bastard. He's been lying to me all these years.
He used to be thin, wear green, and clean shaven.
Oh, man.
And he was Catholic for a while. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to him anymore. Now he's more right wing with it. All right, Anthony Bourdain is here with us. Now you still have your restaurant in New York City, or
yep, Brasserie Leal on Park Avenue between 28 and 29.
And how often are you there? I mean, it's not a problem that you leave to...
Nah, I've served no useful purpose there for some time. I'm sort of, the bobblehead casino greeter at the door when I'm in town. I swan around, wave my hand. Hey, thanks for coming. Glad you liked your meal, but I'm not there much.
So are people disappointed when they come by? Is it the celebrity chef thing now?
Generally, someone says, oh, is Anthony here? They say, oh, you just missed him.
Right.
That's a good one.
But I'm traveling. I'm traveling about 3 weeks out of the month, every month for the last 4 years now. I mean, I'm constantly either making the shows, promoting the shows, a book tour, foreign book tour, traveling outside the country to promote the shows.
Right.
It all kind of feeds into each other, and I've found myself. I really don't know what it is that I do for a living, but apparently it involves me traveling to a lot of cool places all the time.
And that was something you wanted to do when you were younger. Probably never thought you had a chance at it, right?
When I wrote Kitchen Confidential, I thought, this will maybe be a little cult thing in New York. A bunch of cooks will find it funny. That was it. I mean, it's in 24 languages now, 30 countries, and I have, I'd never traveled anywhere really, right. And now it's a child's dream. I get to go anywhere I want in the world and, get really hammered and eat too much. And as long as it's on television or I write about it later, I get paid for this.
It's work, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a, nice job if you can get it.
The other thing I like, though, when I read Cook Store is that you really hate the travel part of traveling. You hate airplanes and all that just as much as I do. I like to be places, but I hate everything you have to do to get through it.
What sucks is I'm getting really good at travel. I've become a professional traveler, and I hate myself for it. Like, I know how to pack. I'm asleep before the plane takes off. I'm asleep when it lands. You know? Better living through chemistry. That's my solution to
extra nice.
Yeah. Just to show you, and I don't know whether you're aware how big it's taken off. Here's Chops. He took a train down to see you. I want you to check out his neck tattoo. He had to meet you.
Oh man, that's scary. I'll tell you, if he had a sort of Travis Bickle mohawk and a fatigue jacket, I would have been really said, well, I'm flattered. I'm hoping you're in the business. Yes,
yes, I am.
We
Excellent.
thought the best thing to do would be bring him right into the studio next to you.
Well done.
Chops, what exactly do you have on your neck, and what made you do it?
I have the cover of Anthony Bourdain's cookbook, and I've read all of his books, and just a huge fan. And I have the skull biting kitchen knife with the chef's hat on, and I saw it on the cover of his book, and I was looking for a new tattoo anyways.
How long have you been cooking, Chops?
4 years.
Yeah. Now, what is it about Anthony that you said to yourself, man, this hit me, I'm going to get a neck tattoo and be stuck with this forever?
Well, one of the main things was, the first time I was reading Kitchen Confidential, and at that same time, I was, a lot like him. You read Kitchen Confidential, and you talk about how, the whole, like, almost pirate aspect of it. And if you look, I've also got, like, pirate tattoos on me, and all my friends were just this rough group of ruffians, drinking every night, getting fights and all that stuff, and, just related
so
to it.
Anthony it's the culture was always there, but you kind of alerted people to, hey, this is a great place to be if you're a misfit sometimes. You could really live a kind of rough and tumble life if you work hard at it, right?
Well, I mean, going back to Roman times, I mean, if you read Orwell's book, Down and Out in Paris and London, which is about the business back in the 20s and 30s, the same type of people, whatever country you're in, have always been attracted to the restaurant business. I mean, you have to be... You have to be crazy. It is the last refuge of misfits. It's a place where, if things have gone terribly wrong in your life, you can make good. And for a lot of us, it's that perfect mix between order and chaos. I mean, a lot of nonsense goes on outside of the kitchen and inside the kitchen. But end of the day, you're not staying in the business if that food isn't good, if it doesn't arrive on time. I mean, there are rules. There is structure.
More than most jobs, actually, when you get into it. I mean,
most people would crumble, and most people do.
Don't have that kind of pressure, let alone, dealing with the heat and movement. Most people, they have a lot of time at their job. But here's the weird thing. There's always this guy, we all have met him, or he's our cousin or uncle, that, gets to age 40, 50. He's got that savings. He's got a couple recipes. He's put together a mixtape that he thinks is unbelievable. So he sinks all his money into a restaurant. 6 months later.
Yeah, have you worked for that guy?
Not yet, thank God. It's probably in my cards, though.
You've seen him over and over, Anthony, in your life? The guy who just comes in because he likes to eat in a restaurant, he wants to own it, or what is...
He figures, if I own a restaurant, I can score with the hostess.
Right.
People will like me. My friends always said I was a great host, great entertainer.
Right.
I was always really good around the kitchen. I need some place to display my collection of, Hummel figurines.
Like building a tree house.
I always wanted to be Humphrey Bogart. They never figure out that, those are all really rotten reasons to get into the restaurant business. You need to be compelled, but you also need to be in touch with your inner mean bastard. Meaning this is a business. I have to be the sort of person who can say to my friends, all right, you deadbeats, from this point on, you're paying for your meals.
Right.
This is not a canteen. The figures, the likelihood that if you get into the restaurant business now, whoever you are, your chances of ever making $1 are significantly less than if you wanted to be a startup dirt farmer. I mean, those are the numbers.
Right.
So you better be a special kind of person to stand a chance. And in fact, it's one of the few businesses where you can do absolutely everything right. Right investors, right plan, right location, right chef, everything, and still fail.
And you've had experiences like that, just heartbreaking, I guess, where you're going, I know this is it, but it's either the wrong month that you open, whatever reason, the cash flow doesn't get going, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, it's one of those things that you got to love about chefs, or that I do. It's that in spite of almost certain defeat and doom, we remain hopeful and hopeless romantics. As hardcore as you have to be in the business and realistic at the same time. You believe and you keep going. It's really interesting to see people who come rolling out of culinary schools. They quit their perfectly good job and go to culinary school thinking, it looks so great.
Right.
Being a chef. See Emerald on TV. That
Sure.
could be me. 2 weeks in, when they get out of school, 2 weeks in, they're trailing or, doing an apprenticeship in a restaurant. You just look in their eyes and you can see the dream dying in increments.
Chops, what got you into it?
I just, started as a dishwasher 4 years ago and just worked my way up through it. I plan on going to culinary school someday, but I just like the hours. I like the lifestyle, crazy as it sounds.
Right.
It's fitting. It's like one of the jobs where you can go out, work all day, and go out, get drunk after that, and it's kind of like you need to you have this I don't know.
Adrenaline. I mean, you get this huge adrenaline rush to get to, and at the end of the night, that's still pumping.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was going to say drinking problem.
Oh, yeah, it's also that, too.
That
You
comes-
have,
yeah.
you need to, supply your need,
I have to say that starting as a dishwasher, if I were to have one bit of advice for people who are thinking about becoming cooks or chefs, start as a dishwasher. I mean, before you sink money in a culinary school, spend some time working as a dishwasher in a busy restaurant, because you will find out, at that point, is this the life for me? Do I really want to be a chef? I mean, you're in a much better position when you do go into school.
And it's right, because a lot of people now think being a chef is going on the Today Show and kind of mixing up these things that they've got the salt ready and all. But when you're in a kitchen, it can be a pretty frightening place if you've never been there before.
It's scary.
It's insane, and people are waving knives at each other and screaming, and it gets nuts.
And and for your first 6 months, you are on the in the hierarchy in the kitchen, you are lower than whale shit. You don't have a name. Yeah, and you're learning such valuable culinary skills as how to clean out a grease trap.
Well, I mean, when I'm in New York and meeting the kitchen staffs most places, they're almost 100% Latin now, aren't they?
Listen, that's who you look to learn from.
Because they're hard workers, or
because they have chances are they have better character than you and are better prepared for the business.
Is that right?
What I mean by that is assuming you're like me, you roll out of a best cooking school in the country. You come with a lot of baggage. You come with the crippling handicap of relative affluence, meaning you expect life to be fair. You expect some measure of justice, that good will be rewarded, that you will be treated equitably. A lot of the Latinos who come to this country to work come from places where, you call the cops and they come over, you're robbed, you call the cops, they come over to your house and they rob you again.
Right.
When you're already kind of used to inequity, the absurdity of life, unfairness, futility, and you can find something beautiful, like in Mexican love songs, they find, that there's something ironic and beautiful about tragedy. That's, if you can laugh at that kind of thing,
right?
That's a huge advantage character-wise to succeed in kitchens. If you're the sort of person like me, you roll out of cooking school and you see the boss cutting back on salaries all over the restaurant, and chiseling, pennies here and there, and yet this is the same day he bought a new Jag for his girlfriend.
Right.
That makes you very angry. For somebody coming out of Mexico or Ecuador, that's perhaps something they've seen earlier in life. They've had a harder road, and of course that's going to make things a little easier for them, or more likely they'll succeed. I can teach people to cook, as I often say. I can't teach character, and I'm just people who've had a struggle, who come from cultures where food is already an important thing,
right.
A pleasurable thing, a center of life. That's a natural born cook, as far as I'm concerned.
We were just talking with Blowhard when he's doing this anti-immigration stuff. I think the city would be in real trouble if we didn't have these first generation.
65% of restaurant employees, it is said, in the New York tri-state area are Latino.
Is that right?
And as I don't know what the how much documentation is involved there. I think 12% nationally, and I think that's a ridiculously low figure.
I think so too, because I see them being the only Latin people in a lot of communities.
The level of hypocrisy in this business, and just across the board on this issue, is grotesque. Listen, every Latino undocumented Latino decides to not show up at work tomorrow, nobody's getting fed in this country. Okay, right. The entire business comes tumbling down, and yet, this is who's doing the job. I don't care at what level. Mm-hmm. You go to the James Beard Awards, as I did a few years ago. It's this, self-congratulatory, all the chefs, everybody's patting each other on the back and handing out awards. And I'm up there on the stage presenting an award, and I look out, this massive auditorium filled with people who, are in the business, claim to love the business, an organization that claims to celebrate the business of cooking, the craft of cooking. I have never seen so many white people in one room. I mean, right. Since David Dukes ran for president, it was just extraordinary.
Yeah, it's amazing. And yet, at the same time, we act like this is our America. All right, 866-766-0339. That's 866-RUN-0FEZ. Anthony Bourdain with us today, Fez.
From Kitchen Confidential, of course, his book, and the Travel Channel, No Reservations.
And you've got something new coming out that you've done with other chefs? Or?
Yeah, it's a book called Don't Try This at Home, and it's a collection, basically... we rounded up 40 of the best chefs in the world to talk about their worst, most humiliating, painful, and embarrassing moments in their career. It's pretty damn funny and surprising that a lot of big names are remarkably candid about some pretty ugly episodes.
Some of the stuff they've had to put up with. I guess you can't get out of it. I guess everybody's got their scars, right?
Everybody. I mean, even like I don't know if you remember the Two Hot Tamales from Food
Sure.
Network. Susan Feniger and Mary Sue Milliken. They admit to heading off to a posh Beverly Hills party, spilling hollandaise sauce all over their disgusting used car floor, and having to ladle it up, put it through a strainer, and serve it. So it's a story of triumph and innovation.
All right, here's Tressler. Tressler, say hi to Anthony.
What's going on, boys?
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
I just wanted to call and thank Anthony for his book. I went to culinary school in the mid-'90s, and I didn't really have any focus other than to be a chef, which is, kind of a nondescript term. His book came out, and I realized that I just wanted to be another grunt, another pirate on the line, slaving away for my chef. And I realized that, all of his experiences really summed up to what it is I wanted to be a cook for. And that was, just to really just hump and put out the product.
All right, that's very nice.
Love hearing that. Thank you.
Right,
there's this weird kind of Fight Club cult around you now. I'm getting a little nervous stuff. These young pirates that are looking to you. It's a little scary.
It's a great life. It is when you become a chef and even a cook. It is kind of like joining the mafia or a cult because you're 2 degrees separated from every other chef in the world.
Right.
Nobody gets treated better in a restaurant than like a cook from another restaurant.
Oh, is that right?
And it's not difficult at whatever level. You're about to go to Sydney, Australia. You want to eat at the hardest reservation in Sydney, Tetsuya Wakuda's place. Chances are a chef who knows a chef who can make a phone call and you're in a week later. And that's a beautiful thing. And when you get together at night in whatever city with all the local gurus, everybody kind of knows each other. And it's a very transient population, meaning chefs move from place, cooks move from place to place. So we tend to know each other or know somebody who knows somebody else. And it's great to be part of this life.
Now, even with your show, because you bust balls a little bit, nobody ever says, hey, Bobby's place doesn't say, don't let that son of a bitch in there with cameras. Everybody's pretty open about it.
No, Bobby's like good people. I goose him on TV now and again, but unlike a lot of the goofballs on Food Network, Bobby, Emerald. I mean, those guys are real chefs. I mean, they came up the hard way. If nothing else, Bobby Flay has got quite an empire going. I might make fun of him, but it's not like he's bogus.
Right. You make more fun of his TV persona and what he has to do.
He looks miserable on TV. He looks like he's making television at gunpoint up there. He's standing around there barbecuing with some guy, and he looks like he'd be much happier beating the guy to death. But I mean, he can cook. His restaurants are very decent.
The British chef that screams at people.
Oh, Gordon
Ramsay.
I love Gordon.
You're a fan of his.
I'm a friend of his.
Yeah. Oh, are you really?
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah.
Nicest, sweetest guy you could ever know. Loyal. I mean, he's performing for the cameras now, at Hell's Kitchen. That's kind of shtick, but that's because that's what he was doing for years and years in his own kitchen, and that's the way he came up even harder. I mean, he worked with a guy named Marco Pierre White and chefs who make him look like a complete cuddle puss. Great guy, great cook. That show's trashy, but I love it. I was hooked on it.
Yeah, I watched every episode too.
I just want to start using the word cuddlepuss now.
Some of those people just had no opportunity to win. Those were my favorite ones.
You knew it was Evil Mike. I knew Evil Mike was winning from the beginning. He had all of God's gifts. He was, paranoid, schizo, crazy, manipulative.
Chain smoker.
That's chef material.
Here is Chad. Chad, you're on Ron Fez. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up, boys?
Say hi to Anthony.
Hi.
Hey, Anthony, I'm a big fan. I'm actually a cook myself, and I've read the books. I fucking love them. They're great.
Outstanding.
But I was going to ask you actually one thing, and something else occurred to me. There was this uproar with the Kelly guy, the cook Kelly, that talked shit about Thomas Keller.
No, you're talking about Doug Saltis?
Was it Saltis?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what did you think about that? I mean, for the uninitiated, Keller is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest chef in the country, one of the most respected, and he was just lambasted by this guy in his new book, and the chef world is going nuts.
We'll let Anthony answer. Thanks.
Right. Listen, I'm all for slagging your betters. You know, I've made something of a career about talking shit about people more talented than me. So, I think that Saltis was perfectly within his rights to do that. However, apparently, and by his own later admission, there were significant omissions in his account in the book of his time at the French Laundry and the reasons for his perhaps leaving, which offended me and offended a lot of people in the business. You know, when you talk shit about guys like Keller, who's enormously respected and personally liked by just about every chef I know, or a guy like Dan Barber at Blue Hill in New York, also hugely respected and liked. Hey, fine, talk shit about him, but a little more candor about your own failings. It's a good idea to fully disclose who's talking. I like to remind, at Kitchen Confidential, I said a lot of obnoxious shit, but I like to remind people constantly, I'm not Alain Ducasse here. I'm an ex-junkie knucklehead who's been banging around the business for 28 years, so don't think I'm coming at you from an angle like I'm better than them.
Right.
I think, I respect Doug's a freedom to say what he wants, but I think his account, I think the reader would have been better served that he'd been a little more honest about his own failings, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things about Kitchen Confidential. You went through how many restaurants before you kind of found some kind of stability? It was a long way.
Oh, a long time. I mean, I bankrupted a lot of owners when I thought I was a creative genius. I found my home at Leal because that's probably the kind of food I should have been making my whole career.
Right.
Turn and burn, authentic country, rustic bistro food. I'm no genius.
And is that what you say to somebody like Chops, is to actually find the type of food you should be working in?
Well,
or?
How good do you want to be? Set standards for yourself early and never settle for less. Right. I'm not saying I did that. Right. but where are you working, by the way?
I work at the Mountain Brow House up in New Paltz.
Outstanding. Sure.
Yeah.
How good do you want to be? If you want to be the best, that's gonna stay focused on that, and that's gonna require a lot of sacrifice. A lot of travel, a lot of pain. But if you just love the business and want to bang around in it for the rest of your life, there's that too. But figure out what it is it gives you.
Right.
Figure out what you're good at,
yeah.
and then do it relentlessly.
Okay.
Now he's stuck with that tattoo on his neck. There's nowhere else.
Yeah, who'll hire him now?
Right. I mean, my uncle always gave me the nothing a judge could see rule of tattoos. Nothing across the knuckles, nothing on the neck.
If I were a chef and he walked in the door, if I didn't even know what the hell that was, and he walked in the door and pulled down his collar and showed me that, I'd say, this guy's serious, okay? I don't think he's going to be changing.
Right here.
He's not going to be changing careers next to, decide he wants to, become a, marine biologist next week.
He'll just have to wear a turtleneck on his cooking show.
He's given this cooking thing some serious thought, apparently.
And also, even as much as the schools and all, should these younger guys find somebody who's been around a while and just work in his kitchen? How is that different than going to a school? Is it? I guess you're going to be a reflection. You work for a bad chef,
right? You're
going to pick up a lot of bad habits, right?
Well, it's first, dishwashing, a good thing. Then, as soon as you can, school is a good idea. It's really helpful. But either before or after school, you want to work for the best people you can, even if it's for free, for 6 months, a year at a time. Pick up experience. As I say, the best people you can. Move around if possible. The trajectory of most people who want to be the best is they basically show up at the door of the best chef in town and say, please let me work for you. I'll work for nothing.
Right.
I'll peel your carrots. I'll mop your brow, whatever. Give me the experience. Give me the chance, whether that's in town or in France or in Spain.
Right.
That's invaluable. Also, that's resume building. You show up and tell me, yeah, I just did 6 months at Gordon Ramsay. I know you can cook. Right. I know you have the highest standards, and I know you can take an ass kicking.
Because everybody's going to at his level, right? You're going to get beat up by some of these guys. I know you have a no Billy Joel rule. What's that about in the kitchen?
There's some things, there's some things I just can't abide. Don't show up late, and I don't want to see you listening to Billy Joel in my kitchen. I don't like his music. I have to say, what's really weird is I've been talking shit about Billy Joel for a long time. My assistant calls me up and says, Tony, we got a problem here. Billy Joel just got off the phone with me, and he wants to come to dinner.
Really?
And I said, oh, man, what do I do? This is totally uncool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had dinner at Leal. First thing he says, he gets him and his girlfriend, now wife, get out of the car. And I have to say, first thing he says to me is, I guess we don't have the same taste in music. But I'll tell you, he eats like a champion.
Yeah.
Enjoys a glass of red wine. I just hate his music, and if you listen to it in my kitchen, you're fired. Ditto the Grateful Dead.
But he really is known for eating wherever he possibly can. I mean, everybody in the Long Island's, the Hamptons, he's been in every restaurant there.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like he came in and ordered some, the usual. I'd like an egg white omelet, some vegetables.
Right.
And, no, that guy tucked in a 34-ounce Côte de Boeuf. I think had a steak tartare before that. It's really kind of too bad about the music thing because he's okay.
Hey, that's a really good point, though. If people are going out to a restaurant, let's say us, we walk into your place. Mm-hmm. How should we behave to be in for the best experience? Should we be listening to the waiter? What should we do? Your
waiter, the chef might be saying, listen, you got to move the soul. You got to move the soul. It's getting old. There's no way the waiter's going to move something that's not going to make you happy in any kind of a busy, respectable restaurant. The waiter wants you to have a really good time, tip him enormously, and come back with your friends. So you're going to any kind of respectable, decent place. I mean, we're known for steak and red meat. Okay, and that's what we're kind of famous for. So that's probably what you're looking to do. Figure out what the restaurant thinks they're good at and let them do that for you. The better the restaurant, the more likely it is that you should basically put yourself at the mercy of the waiter or the chef. You go in and you say, hey, what are you good at? Give me your best shot. That's what I do. And
just say whatever you have. Because when you go in there and you keep trying to order, chicken or again, if you're on a diet, don't go out to a place like that. That's just insane.
Just stop eating the damn cheese doodles and you're sitting around your ass in front of the computer. Don't eat breakfast. Skip lunch, then go out to a nice meal.
Right. Don't suffer at a place that you should be eating well.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there with a bag of ho-hos and a gallon jug of Diet Pepsi. And why? Save it up for a good meal.
All right, here's Throwback. Throwback, say hi to Anthony Bourdain.
Hey, Tony, big fan.
Hey, Throwback.
Just want to say, I was in Uzbekistan a couple of years ago for a wrestling tournament. I did the same type I think you did from your show, judging by the commercials.
Yeah.
I was there for a week. I did not have a single meal, which I would not call a revolting, except for the vodka, and even that was half-assed at that.
It was
Did you find any good food there?
It was not a culinary wonderland, and I'll tell you, I'd like to say that next week, we're showing the show's on next week, and if you hate my guts and find me annoying, next week is the episode for you. I went for, the traditional sort of Arab-style massage, and dude, it was like Midnight Express. It was the most agonizing torture I've ever been in, agonizing and prolonged torture I've ever been in, and fortunately, the pain was so excruciating that I was able to ignore the sexual humiliation part. But, oh, my God, terrible. As far as the food, room temperature, goat guts and stuff like that. It was not one of my favorite culinary destinations. That's being kind. It's like shashlik, plav, basically lukewarm lamb kebabs and lukewarm rice pilaf, of varying degrees of loathsomeness. Not so great.
Where have you eaten that you think would surprise people? Vietnam, I know you love.
Vietnam,
right?
Best place, one of the best countries on earth to eat.
Really?
Fantastic. Great food everywhere. You walk down the street, the food finds you.
And it seemed like they love Americans, or at least they were loving you.
Most generous, kind people anywhere. I'm just totally in love with that country.
Isn't it weird that after we have a war with somebody, we end up, they like us and we like them, like Germany and Japan. Like in 30 years, everybody's going, oh, you got to get to Iraq. It's just, the people are lovely.
Well, what's really weird is that, a lot of the countries I go in the last few years, people become kind of, they're treating, geez, you're American, and they look at me like I'm some sort of, over-affectionate yet rabid Saint Bernard. And there's a level of, confusion and even hostility. And I'm talking about like England, Australia,
right.
France, Germany. The only places I've been where they're just unrestrainedly pro-American. You love Americans in principle. China, mainland China,
Really?
and Vietnam. Just we're glad to have you here. Love you. The hell with politics.
That's interesting, isn't it?
That is very, very cool. That you would think the people that we have the least in common with, I guess it's the curiosity.
And maybe just some people just happen to be cooler, no matter how the governments happen to be. It doesn't, do you totally feel represented by your government, like whatever they think or do really represents you? I'm sure they're the same way. Just like Cuban people, when you meet Cuban people in Miami, they're always fun people. Yeah. And there's nothing fun about Castro, it doesn't seem. And then the people are always great.
I don't know. I think when you're willing to sit down with people, eat what they eat, and drink lots of what they drink, you're going to be treated well everywhere, whatever country.
Here's Mark. Mark, you're on Ron Fez. Say hi to Anthony.
Up, buddy?
Yeah, buddy.
Anthony, I just want to say, I used to work in a restaurant here in my hometown in Connecticut. The time I was there, we went through 3 head chefs. We went through 2 highly trained and 1 21-year-old who had never had any professional training whatsoever as far as cooking. In all honesty, we were most successful under the 21-year-old untrained chef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can understand that.
And I never went farther than prep cook, but I absolutely fell in love with working in a kitchen, and it's just something I'm definitely looking forward to doing right now. And my other question I have for you is, for someone like me looking to get into the cooking business, what culinary school would you recommend?
Well, I mean, the best in the country is CIA, the Culinary Institute. Obviously, that's the best. Johnson & Wales is good. In New York, a French Culinary, excellent. In that order, I'd say.
What were you thinking about, Chops?
Well, I live in New Paltz, which is right by the CIA, and unfortunately, I don't want to do their wait staff program. I don't want to deal with that. But I'm also thinking about the French Institute in New York and the New England Institute, Culinary Institute in Montpelier.
Yeah, I hated the front of the house wait staff angle at CIA. That. However, it makes you'll never use it again, but you'll know. As a chef, you will know when if your floor staff's screwing you. You'll know all the tricks. You'll be able to see in a glance, who's on it and who's not on it. So it's not like that's not useful later on. Right. It just, I understand your reticence to put on the tie and the white shirt. Yeah, I was the worst waiter ever.
I can imagine. I can't really. I imagine that you don't really care whether or not we're happy.
Oh. I'm lucky they didn't throw me out of school for extortion. I'd like lean in and whisper to the customer's ear, you want what? You want to eat this soup or wear it, my friend?
But Chops,
I'll eat it.
It's a great point. If you're going to be in a position where they're working for you, you better know every angle there is. Because anything can just destroy your restaurant. That's the problem, right?
Absolutely. Your bartender serves a minor, and the minor plows, goes out, plows their car into a busload of nuns. It's all over for you. It's also, I have to say, it's a good idea. It's not a bad idea, because you'll have a little sympathy for floor staff, which is useful also. I mean, they are not the enemy. We hate them deeply in the kitchen for maybe 5 minutes a night. Right. But we are all in the same dysfunctional, extended family. They may be getting in and out of the family a little faster than the cooks, but, who else will hang out with us? Who else will lend us money or sleep with us?
That's the thing. If you're going to have sex with them, you should probably figure out what they do.
Right.
That always helps.
And, and you need them. And they take a lot of the brunt. I mean, your worst customers come in and, you screw up, you overcook the steak. The poor bastard out front is getting yelled at.
Right.
It's good to have them out there. They give you important information and shuttle you free drinks.
Anthony Bourdain is in studio with us. His new book is Don't Fry This at Home, and he's seen on the Travel Channel. His show is No Reservations.
And what's happening with the TV show? They just kind of bought the name from you, or are you involved in it, or how's it work?
Let's see. I sold it to, New Line Cinema. They were thinking about a movie. It ended up with Darren Star and a TV show, which I think is getting better and darker as it progresses. But of course, it's very loosely based on the book, as loosely as they want. I get paid as a consultant on the show, meaning I answer questions and talk with them. I think expectations for a lot of the fans are going to look at the show and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not the book.
Right.
It isn't. But it's getting darker. I mean, the last episode I actually I really liked. It was the Mexican dishwasher makes a punk out of the prep cook. That I rather enjoyed that.
How many revenue streams do you have now? It's just sick. Just everywhere I look, you're picking up another paycheck.
Well, it could go. It's all going to go terribly wrong soon. I'm sure I'll find a way to screw all of this up.
Well, luckily, when it doesn't happen too early in life, you don't give a shit. That's the beauty of it.
I've made a lot of, I think I've already screwed up in every possible way you can. And I mean,
right.
I've made a lot of your major mistakes. So every day that I wake up and don't screw up, it's a win.
Yeah, I remember hearing that Brad Pitt was thinking about playing you, but
when Hollywood tells you, it's going to be a David Fincher film and Brad Pitt is starring as you, what that really means is that eventually it will end up as a Hasselhoff vehicle with about a mystery solving chef and his talking pooch. And it's set in Malibu. So I figure I got off real lucky with the current arrangement.
Here's Marty. Marty, you're on Ron Fez.
Yeah, what did you think about that reality show, The Restaurant?
Oh, man, that was a train wreck, huh? Rocco, very, very talented cook and chef, and man, he did himself no favor making that show. I was actually on it. My friend Eric dragged me onto the show. He said, we must help Rocco and support him. Let's go to eat there. Oh, man, I just felt like I never wanted to get out of the shower after that thing. Look at it on its face. Who comes out of the other end of a reality show experience looking good with a great career? I think Danny Bonaducci's really going to be getting a lot of jobs after this one, for instance. You're on The Real World with Mini-Me peeing on your leg.
Right.
Is this the launch pad to great things to come? It was awful. The restaurant was awful. I mean, the food was cynical. It was a horror show, and it did Rocco, an otherwise really talented cook. It did him no good, and it's that's sad.
Is it something he can bounce back from, or?
Listen, I think if Rocco wanted to, he could open up a 45, 85-seat restaurant, strap himself to the stove, actually cook, stay in the kitchen, stop swanning around the dining room. Absolutely. I mean, his food is good. The man can cook. It just, he wants to be the next, I don't know. He wants to be a talk show host or something.
Where do chefs go in New York? Where do you guys hang out together? Do you stay away from each other?
No. We hang out a lot. Late night sushi. There are a couple of bars, like Siberia Bar over in Hell's Kitchen, Bellevue Bar, for instance.
So there's a certain amount of networking, particularly like a young guy like Chops. You want to be in a place meeting the other guys, right?
Yeah, it's generally late night sushi, late night Chinese. Places where, we don't go out to fancy places. You don't want to, after you've been, you smell of smoked salmon and fish and, garlic. The last thing you want to do is dress up and go out and have to behave.
More simple food, too? Is it more basic food? Or
simple. Last thing I want to do is see a little tower of, anything with little squeeze bottle stuff on it.
You have no foams? None of that foam thing that gets big? I don't even understand that. I see it on...
there are a few chefs who do that molecular gastronomy really, really well.
Yeah.
About 4 of them in the world. But there are a lot of people who are playing around with that kind of stuff who probably shouldn't.
All right, we'll take another call here. Here is Adam. Adam, you're on Ron Fez.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
The 115.
What's up?
Dude, I love this guy's show, but the one thing freaked me out is when he went to Vietnam and was just drinking like crazy, doing shots with the guy. How jacked up were you, dude?
Well, I'm a professional.
You can handle your alcohol from the show.
That was, I ended up unconscious, no question, but I ended up unconscious after everybody else. You're not making any friends in the world if you don't keep up in the local beverage department.
So true.
The one time in the old series when I really had difficulty was Russia. That was merciless. I was begging for mercy. 2 shots of vodka for breakfast, 7 shots for lunch, 14 to 18 shots for dinner. Every day I was in Russia, and there's just no way out of it. Every shot is personal. This is to our countries. This is to our great nations, international cooperation. This is to our mothers. What are you going to do? Say, fuck your mother? I'm not taking that shot? You drink. And this is a country where every little old lady can drink you under the table and drive you home.
It's just a constant with them, huh?
So that... I made it through Vietnam, but I mean,
Cambodia got a little weird too, right?
Cambodia was just in Borneo, where of course everybody, it seems, however rural, they have a local beverage that they brew in a bathtub, and it comes in usually in a plastic cola bottle. You just that's how you make pals in a lot of these.
Right.
You drink. It can get a lot kooky. I was just in Peru, and they make this local sort of like beer beverage. All the village women sit around and they chew cooked yucca and spit it in this communal pot where it ferments into this mildly alcoholic hell broth. And you're drinking that. Now, drinking that is one thing, but drinking it while you're watching them just a few feet away making it, it makes Drain Cleaner look good.
What's next with you in writing? Is there going back to novels, more of a philosophy thing?
Nah, I got a collection coming out next year called The Nasty Bits. Then I'm working on a novel, but eventually the next big one that I'm really it's going to take me a long time to do is I'm moving to Vietnam for about a year and a half. At least I'll be based out of there, and I'm going to write a Vietnam book, just a nonfiction, whatever happens, that's what I'll be writing about.
About present day Vietnam?
Yeah, I'm going to move to a little fishing village over there, be based out of there, and just write about whatever I see and whatever happens to me. I have no idea what that's going to be.
It is weird in this country how Vietnam is still that haunting thing. Even now when I see movies from being a little kid when the Vietnam War was on, that almost feels almost nostalgic for me. Like when I watched your show, I almost felt like, I don't know, like I was seeing some stuff from home because there's so much that stuff still in the American psyche.
Yeah,
with Vietnam.
That's true of me also. I mean, I grew up with it on TV.
Yeah.
It was sort of the background music of my life.
Right.
And in spite of all the horrible shit that was going on there, in the background, it was green, it was beautiful, and it was in some terrible way romantic.
Yeah.
I went there wanting it to be like the movies, only not violent.
Right.
And it was so much better than that. I mean, it was just it really changed my life to go there and to be treated so well by strangers everywhere who rush up to you to feed you and show you how cool their country is.
But it is interesting. We do associate that 60s music with that place. Even though I've never been there, there's something about that whole era from me being a little kid. It's just there. This country somehow is going to have to come to grips with that period, which I don't think we did, where we're still going Iraq, that's Vietnam, and, is John Kerry, was he a hero, was he a goat, blah, 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 John McCain. We still haven't said what that whole era was to us.
Well, I think to go there is a life-changing thing. I know it was for McCain, was very much against reconciliation, and
right.
When he went back to visit, he came back completely changed on that issue. And I think, I understand completely, of course, why there's still a lot of ambivalence, if not, rage or real discomfort with the notion of putting that in the past. But, I operate on a very different level. For me, it's you sit down with people, over food and drink, you're communicating on a very different level. A lot of, the past is out the door. It's
right.
You see people at their very best, I think, and they're most guileless when you're eating their food.
Right. It's a human experience where
right.
Politics really isn't.
I mean, they don't understand at all. I mean, I was eating and drinking a lot with these former Viet Cong, and I said, well, aren't you guys pissed?
Right.
Any bad blood going on here? And they were like, to be ridiculous. What a ludicrous Western notion. We've been fighting for 600 years. You guys, before you, we fought the Japanese, the French, the Chinese. Since you, we fought the Chinese 2 or 3 times, the Cambodians. Nothing personal, man.
Yeah.
So as a people, they've just moved on.
Yeah. Or they considered almost part of life. Just the.
Well, don't please stay out of our country.
Right.
I think they're not even, they're very much family oriented. They're family ancestor worshippers,
right.
by and large. And they really aren't. The North and South are very different and have a much the same relationship as like blue states, red states.
Right.
But they pull together. They tend to pull together. They don't like the idea of anyone from any place else messing with them. They hate the Russians, and they're I mean, on a day-to-day level, if you step on somebody's toe in Saigon, they'll say in Vietnamese under their breath, "You're fucking Russian."
That's the insult.
Yeah, if you're a white guy, they don't.
That'd be good, huh, Earl? If that was what we had here, it's just Russian.
And they have a historical antipathy towards the Chinese because they're right next door and have been actually moving in and out. Nationalism and good food often go together. The Basque, they kind of like that too. Don't mess with us attitude, or else they cook. It's the problem with the Irish. You'd think the Irish would be great cooks.
Right,
they've got all the qualifications, good ingredients. Violent nationalism.
They've
can't
got
get what
past
it takes.
the whiskey. They did well with the whiskey, and after that, it's a boiled potato.
Actually, it's getting better and better there.
Yeah.
You can eat really, really well in Ireland now.
Anthony Bourdain, thanks so much for stopping in. Just a gigantic fan. You're doing great work. Fezzy, go ahead and read the bio. Tell everybody what to get.
That's right. The new book is Don't Fry This at Home.
Don't try this at home.
Right. And I'm sorry. And the Travel Channel, it's no reservations.
Anthony, thanks so much, buddy. Keep
My
it
pleasure.
going. We'll be watching everything you're up to. Chops, we'll get your picture
Good
taken.
meeting you, man.
Yes.
We'll get your picture taken with him.
Awesome. That'd be great.
All right. We'll be back in a few moments. It's Ron Fez.